Hey everyone, Mrs. Rogstad here. Today we are going to be talking about conversion factors. This is lesson 8.4, and our main objectives are just to become familiar with and memorize the most important conversion factors. Okay, so first off, what is a conversion factor? A conversion factor is a relationship between units in one unit to another that are equal to each other. Okay, so conversion factors are a relationship between units that are equal to each other. And here you can start writing these down are the most common conversions for lengths. So for example, the measurement 2.54 centimeters is equal to 1 inch. So I don't have both measurements on the ruler down here, but you could take a ruler from my drawer in the classroom and see for yourself that the 1 inch marking on one side of the ruler is at the same location as the 2.54 marking, which won't be exactly a marking, but it'll kind of be between markings. But you'll see that 2.54 centimeters is equal to 1 inch. And so if we ever wanted to convert any measurement that we had that was in centimeters, we could use this relationship right here, and I'll show you how to do that in the next video, to convert into inches. Okay, and all these in red here, these are relationships. Actually, I messed up here, but these ones right here. Okay, let's do black. So these ones right here are within the US customary system. And then this one up here, and then all the rest of them kind of are the bridge between the US customary system and the metric system. Because you've already learned how to convert within the metric system, which is really easy because all you have to do is move the decimal point around, like King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk. But if we want to if we have a metric unit and we want to convert it to the US customary or vice versa, we have to use one of these conversion factors. So you need to write these down. A really effective study tool is to use flashcards, and I have tons of them. Just ask me. And you could write 2.54 centimeters on the front and 1 inch on the back, and then test yourself to see if you can memorize it. It might seem like kind of busy work, but it's really not, because we're going to be using these all the time. And if you don't have a good handle on what these numbers are, then it'll become difficult in the next step. Okay. So these are the big ones. 2.54 centimeters is 1 inch. 12 inches is 1 foot. 3 feet is 1 yard. 1,609 meters is 1 mile. Notice I wrote out the whole measurement over here because sometimes people get confused between M and MI. So M is meter, MI is miles. Here's the conversion: 1.609 kilometers to 1 mile, 0.3048 meters to 1 foot, and 5,280 feet to 1 mile. So actually this deserves to be in red. And whoever thought of that first should probably get a house point. Sorry for messing that up. All right, notice on the last slide, all of these conversions have to do with length. You can't convert a length into another quantity. You can't convert length into time, for example. That doesn't make any sense, because if you're measuring length, it's a distance, it's one kind of measurement, and you can only use other units that measure distance or length to do that measurement. So all these conversions here have to do with units that measure length. Okay, so on the next slide we have time conversions. Now these are probably more familiar. We use these in a lot of So 60 seconds is a minute, 60 minutes is an hour, 24 hours is a day, 365 days is a year. The one you might not know is 3,600 seconds is 1 hour. And you can get away with not using that, but it's a nice shortcut because we often have to convert seconds into hours. You could do 2 steps. You could do 60 seconds is 1 minute and 60 minutes is 1 hour. But this is a really nice shortcut. It'll make your life easier. So again, I want you to memorize these time conversion factors. And conversion factors are relationships between units that are equal to each other. Okay, next we have volume. And for volume, there's a few that you need to know that are very important. The first one, and my guess is that none of these are familiar. You might have learned like pints and quarts and gallons, which is great, especially if you're a cook, very useful in the kitchen. But in science, we're going to stick with these units that are more often used. Okay, so 1 milliliter equals 1 cubic centimeter. Another way to write cubic centimeters is cc's. So if you have a parent who works in the medical field as a nurse or a doctor or something like that, in medicine they often say cc's when they're putting saline or some kind of medicine in an IV that's attached to a patient. It's the same as a milliliter. It's just a preference that they like to call it cc's. So you'll notice these units are actually equivalent to each other because 1 milliliter equals 1 centimeter cubed. Then we have 1,000 liters equals 1 meter cubed. So if you want to think about how big this actually is in real life, 1 milliliter would be like a little eyedropper, or like maybe a little medicine dropper, or just something that would drop, filled up, dropping 1 drop at a time. That would be about a milliliter. A liter, and by the way, there's 1,000 milliliters in 1 liter. That one's worth memorizing, even though you could figure that out with King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk. 1,000 milliliters is 1 liter. So a liter is about the size of a hydro flask or a water bottle. It's about the average size of that, the average volume of that. And 1,000 liters makes up 1 meter cubed, or cubic meter is another way of saying that. A cubic meter is about the volume of a large bathtub or a small hot tub. So you could fill up your water bottle 1,000 times to fill up a large bathtub. I don't recommend doing it that way. That sounds kind of tedious, but you could in theory do that. And then this is the most important conversion here for going from metric to US customary, and that's 3.785 liters equals 1 gallon. We'll be using that quite a bit. Okay, so those are the units that I have for you to memorize. Got to write them down in your notebook. You can make flashcards. You can make a Quizlet if that's still a thing that people use. And for your practice work, I'm going to have you practice on a quizzes and keep going until you get 100%. So it's probably going to take you a few tries until you get 100%, but just keep practicing and get those numbers in your brain, and then you'll be very ready for the next step. All right, have a great day.